Victor Hugo finished his novel, then he sent his publisher a letter. The whole letter was just one thing, a question mark.
A question mark? That's the whole letter?
He was asking, will it sell? The publisher wrote back, also one thing, an exclamation mark.
No way, that really happened?
It did, and the book became the biggest novel in France. That book is Les Misérables.
Oh, the musical.
The musical, the movies, the TV shows, all of it. But before all that, it was a book, a huge one. And it starts with one man and one loaf of bread.
Bread? What do you mean?
He stole bread for his sister's starving children. He got 5 years in prison. Then he tried to escape again and again. By the time he got out, 19 years had passed.
19 years for bread?
For bread, and that's just the beginning. What happened to him next? That changed everything. Let's hear the story from the very start.
In a small town in France, there lived a man named Jean Valjean. He was poor, his family was hungry. One winter night, his sister's children were crying. They had no food. So Valjean broke a window and stole a loaf of bread. He was caught. The judge gave him 5 years in prison. 5 years for one loaf of bread. In prison, Valjean tried to escape 4 times. Each time they caught him, they added more years. When he finally walked out, 19 years had passed. He was no longer young, and he was full of anger. Nobody wanted to help a convict. Every door was closed. But one old man opened his door. Bishop Myriel. The bishop gave Valjean food and a warm bed. That night, Valjean stole the bishop's silver plates and ran. The police caught him and brought him back. But the bishop said something no one expected. He said, I gave those to him, and he forgot the candlesticks too. The bishop handed Valjean 2 silver candlesticks. Then he whispered, I have bought your soul for God. You no longer belong to evil, you belong to good. Valjean changed his name. He became Monsieur Madeleine. He built a factory. He gave people jobs. The town loved him so much they made him mayor. But a police inspector named Javert was watching him. Javert believed in one thing only, the law. And he thought this mayor was hiding something. Then one day, another man was arrested. The police said he was Jean Valjean. If Valjean stayed silent, this man would go to prison in his place. If he spoke the truth, he would lose everything. In Valjean's factory, there worked a woman named Fantine. She had a little girl named Cosette. But Fantine could not keep her child. She was alone and poor. So she left Cosette with an innkeeper and his wife, the Thénardier. They promised to take good care of her. They lied. Every month they asked Fantine for more money. Fantine was fired from the factory. She had nothing left. She sold her hair. She sold her teeth. She sold herself. Everything she had, she gave for her daughter. Valjean went to the courthouse. He stood before the judge. He said, That man is not Jean Valjean, I am. The whole room went silent. Then he went to Fantine. She was dying. He held her hand. and made a promise. "I will find your child. I will take care of her." Fantine smiled, and then she was gone. Valjean was a free man no more, but he had a promise to keep. Valjean escaped from prison and found the Thénardier inn. Little Cosette was there, thin, afraid, working like a slave. They made her carry water in the dark, in a bucket too heavy for her small hands. Valjean paid the Thénardier and took the girl by the hand. In the darkness, she held his hand and was no longer afraid. For the first time in years, Cosette smiled. Valjean and Cosette went to Paris. They hid in a convent behind tall walls. Years passed quietly. Cosette grew up, Valjean grew old. But Javert never stopped looking. He never gave up. For him, the law was not a choice. It was the only truth. Cosette was now a young woman, beautiful and kind. One day, she saw a young man in the park. His name was Marius. He was a student, brave, full of ideas about a better world. They fell in love, quietly, secretly. But outside their garden, the streets of Paris were on fire. Young men were building barricades with furniture and stones. They fought not for themselves, but for the world they imagined. Marius joined them. He was ready to die for what he believed. The soldiers came. The barricade shook with gunfire. One by one, the students fell. Valjean walked into the gunfire, not to fight, to save. He found Marius bleeding and barely alive. Javert was also there, captured by the students. They gave Valjean a gun and told him to shoot Javert. But Valjean untied the ropes and set Javert free. He released the man who had hunted him for decades. Valjean lifted Marius onto his back and went underground. He carried him through the dark sewers of Paris. The water was black. The air was poison. Every step could be his last. For hours he walked, sinking deeper and deeper. But he did not stop. He had made a promise. When he came out, Javert was waiting. But this time, Javert let him go. Javert walked to the river. His whole life was built on one idea. The law is always right. But Valjean proved that mercy could be stronger. Javert could not live in a world where that was true. He jumped. Marius survived. He and Cosette got married. But Valjean told Marius the truth about his past. He was a convict, a thief, a man who had spent 19 years in chains. He stepped away from their lives, quietly, alone. In a small dark room, Valjean lay dying. Cosette and Marius came running. They held his hands and wept. The silver candlesticks shone beside his bed. He had kept his promise. He had earned his peace.
Wow, that was heavy.
I can't believe he died alone like that.
But he didn't die alone. Not really. We'll get there. First, let's go back to the beginning. He stole a loaf of bread and got 19 years.
That's insane. It was just bread.
Right, but the law called him a convict.
Convict? What's that exactly?
Someone found guilty and sent to prison. But here's the question Hugo is asking. Was Valjean a criminal, or was he just a man trying to survive?
His sister's kids were starving.
Exactly. Starving means so hungry you could die. Hugo didn't write he stole, he wrote he broke a window. He wants you to see the act, not the crime. Now, the bishop scene. This changes everything. Valjean stole from the one man who helped him.
That's terrible. Why would he do that?
Because 19 years of prison turned him into an angry man. And the bishop could have had him arrested again. But instead he said, I gave those to him.
And even gave him the candlesticks on top of that.
That's mercy. Kindness to someone who doesn't deserve it.
So mercy is different from forgiveness?
Forgiveness is choosing not to be angry. Mercy goes further. It gives something good in return for something bad. The bishop didn't just forgive, he bought Valjean's soul.
That's a powerful way to put it.
So Valjean became a mayor, a good one. But then another man was arrested as Jean Valjean.
So he could just say nothing and be safe?
Yes, but his conscience wouldn't let him.
How did he know what was right?
His conscience, that little voice that won't let you look away. Imagine this. You have a new life, a good name. People respect you.
But someone else goes to prison for your crime.
Do you speak or stay silent?
That's impossible.
Valjean chose to speak. He gave up everything. That's what the bishop's mercy did to him. It gave him a conscience. Now let's talk about Fantine. Remember what the narrator said? She sold her hair, she sold her teeth, she sold herself.
Why does Hugo repeat she sold 3 times?
Because each one hits harder. Hair, teeth, herself. She sold. She sold. She sold.
Like a pattern, each one gets worse.
Exactly. That's what makes it so painful to read. That's sacrifice, giving up everything for someone you love.
And she never even got to see Cosette again.
No, that's the cruelest part. Fantine wasn't a victim of bad luck. She was a victim of a broken system. Valjean stood in court. He said, I am Jean Valjean.
That must have taken so much courage.
Then he went to Fantine and made a vow.
Vow? Is that like a promise?
Stronger, a vow is a promise you make with everything you have. And here's the thing, that vow drove the rest of his life.
He escaped again? Just for Cosette?
So the promise was heavier than the chains.
The promise didn't trap him, it set him free. So Valjean found Cosette at the inn. He paid the Thénardiers money, then he took her.
Wait, did he rescue her or buy her?
Good question. He paid money, like a deal.
Come on, Will. He saved a little girl.
That's what Hugo wants you to think about. He paid to free a child from people who hurt her. He didn't buy a child, he rescued one. In the darkness, she held his hand and was no longer afraid.
That line is so simple, but it says everything.
I want someone to hold my hand like that.
Jessica, it's a kid and an old man.
Sometimes rescue is just a hand in the dark. Now let's talk about Javert.
He's the bad guy, right?
Not exactly, and that's what makes Hugo a genius. Javert wasn't evil, he was relentless.
Relentless? What does that mean?
Never stopping, never giving up, no matter what. He believed one thing, a criminal is always a criminal.
So he never thought people could change?
Never, and that was his tragedy. Javert wasn't the villain, he was the law, and the law had no room for mercy.
The revolution part was intense.
Those poor students.
And the worst part, they knew they would lose. They built a barricade, a wall of chairs and stones.
So the students won the revolution?
No, they lost. Almost all of them died. Hugo says they fought not for themselves, but for the world they imagined.
That's brave and really sad.
That's Hugo. He makes you admire them and cry for them at the same time. Now, the barricade scene. Valjean had a gun. Javert was tied up. The student said, "Shoot him."
And Valjean let him go? Why?
Because Valjean learned something the bishop taught him. You don't answer evil with evil, you answer it with mercy.
So he did the same thing the bishop did to him.
Like the bishop's mercy, like Fantine's sacrifice, passed forward. That's what mercy does. It doesn't just save you, it changes you.
But why did Javert jump? I don't get it.
Because his whole world broke. Javert believed one thing, the law is everything. But Valjean, a convict, showed him grace.
Grace? Like being graceful?
Different meaning. Grace is kindness you don't deserve. Valjean should have killed him. Instead, he freed him. Javert couldn't understand a world where mercy beats the law.
So he didn't jump because he was sad.
He jumped because everything he believed in fell apart. Javert wasn't defeated by a man, he was defeated by an idea. The ending, the candlesticks are by his bed.
The same ones the bishop gave him?
The same ones. He kept them his whole life. They weren't just candlesticks, they were his second chance.
So the whole story is about one word, right?
Redemption, earning back your goodness after falling. Valjean stole bread, he stole silver, he started at the bottom. But he spent his whole life climbing back.
And the candlesticks prove he made it.
He didn't just keep his promise, he earned his peace. Remember how we started? A man stole bread, got 19 years. The world told him he was nothing, a convict, a number. But one man, one bishop, said something different. You belong to good. And Valjean spent his whole life proving that was true.
One act of mercy changed an entire life.
That's Les Miserables. That's Hugo's answer. Can one person change the world? Maybe not. But can one act of kindness change one person? Absolutely.
He kept his vow, and it changed everyone around him.
Right, like Valjean did for Cosette and for Javert. What do you think? Can people truly change? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know.